May I have a motion for this evening's Board of Education items?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Becker,
Second.
second by Mr. Hahn. Is there any discussion? Mr. Juliana.
Just want to ensure that the items we are talking about are only up to before the closed session agenda. There are a couple of items that will need to be acted upon after closed session.
Yes. Okay. All in favor? I'm sorry, will the Secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
And President Simmons.
Yes, motion carries. Is there anything on our curriculum instruction agenda that needs to be held till later? I don't think so. We have a motion for our curriculum and instruction items 1 and 2.
So moved.
I'm sorry, 1 and 1.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Becker,
Second.
second by Mr. Hong. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Facilities is good to do now?
Yes.
Any motion for facilities item?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Becker,
Second.
second by Mr. Hahn. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion for our, can we put all the financial services items in?
Yes.
Motion for the financial services items.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Becker,
Second.
second by Mrs. Chu. Is there any discussion? Okay, will the Secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
President Simmons.
Yes, motion carries. We will hold the entire human resources agenda until after closed session. We have a motion for our student services
So
agenda.
moved.
Motion by Mrs. Becker,
Second.
second by Mr. Hong. Is there any discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
President Simmons.
Yes, motion carries. May I have a motion for our transportation services item?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Becker,
Second.
second by Mr. Hong. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Going back to what Susanna asked, I remember a year where there was a lack of buses, and we had to literally hire charter buses, and our administrators, including our superintendent at the time, rode the buses. Are we facing that kind of a potential shortage, Bernie?
The difference, I think the key difference between then and now is that bus drivers were more readily available then and not so much now.
So I'm not saying that then was good.
No,
So-
but at the time, we went from basically having 6 or 7 vans where we were providing transportation for kindergartners and special education, certain
Right.
special ed programs. Everything else was contracted out. That's when we began to build our fleet, because we were totally dependent on outside contractors. We're at a point now where we're at a reasonably good balance, at least as of about 2 years ago. The last couple of years, the difficulties that we've encountered, and not just East Brunswick, but this has been statewide and to some extent even nationally, and that has been the impact upon bus drivers and getting bus drivers certified to actually drive school buses. There's been a school bus driver shortage that has affected companies across the board.
But are we
So we
going to
could buy
have-
buses. If we were to buy buses, we wouldn't necessarily be able to staff them.
No, but I'm just concerned about this event that's happening in a few weeks, the opening of school. Do we have enough
Right,
buses?
and corollary
I
to that
can't-
question.
I can't.
What happens here?
I don't have all the data on that as of this evening, but certainly we'll make you aware of that in the next week or two.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what it means, like, when I look at this sheet, it's like 8 out of 9 routes, no bid. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? That means, what's the next step? Because these are obviously routes that are needed, right?
Yes.
And then what happens next?
The next piece will be, we'll have to go out again, take a look at how we have constructed these routes, where modifications may be necessary. And if we end up with the same result, we'd have to again look at other options. You know, it's a process, and this happens to be
Not a
one of
lot.
those times when we are at August 9th, and we are still in a situation where we don't have bids. And where we're not getting bids, I can guarantee you,
Other school
the same thing
districts.
is happening at other locations.
So I guess, again, the question comes down to, school is opening in less than a month,
Mhm.
and we're talking about going through another bid process. I have great faith in all of you. Please don't mistake my questions for questioning your ability to pull this off. I guess we're just trying to make sure there are plans B, C, D, E, and F.
There are, and we'll share the details of that with you at the next meeting. So we assure you, there's a plan. If we thought there was an emergency to pull the plug and we weren't going to be able to do this, we would be having that conversation tonight.
We can't be alone.
It's just
Right.
the strangest thing, like, we've been
Yeah.
talking about busing for the last 3 years and this shortage, and
Right.
it's just the
Well,
strangest thing.
I'm telling you, when was it? When was it the year that Dr. Magistro rode the charter buses?
It was about, I want to say maybe around 2002?
That wasn't just a
2003.
photo op?
No, all the administrators did it.
That's crazy.
I mean, the impact has been the two private contractors.
Yeah,
that
who
have
closed? I'm sorry, who closed? Which two companies closed? Do we know the names offhand?
Bernie, do you want to say?
I would, but I just don't remember who they were right off the
Phoenix,
top.
Phoenix was one.
Yes.
Phoenix.
And
Seaway? Seaway. Phoenix and Seaway.
Were they?
Thank you.
So they had all these routes?
Phoenix
combined?
was a contractor we utilized.
Okay.
Uber for school?
Scuba for
Anyone?
school.
Hmm?
Scuba.
Uber, Scuba.
Scuba.
I believe Uber
That
just came
is-
out with a new policy about transporting adolescents.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Okay.
and one other thing, just to make a note, because as I'm looking at the coding on here, so these routes show AT, and they're mostly high school, well, they're all high school in Churchill. So all of the routes that show HSAT or HS or CHAT, AT is athletic. So these are athletic routes. These are not the regular school routes. And that is one of the areas that we've been having some serious issues with, is the athletic routes.
Are
And
those-
this has been a buildup because we were seeing very extraordinarily high costs last year from contractors. Contractors were not responding to bids. We had to go to quotes, very high cost results. And now we're seeing the impact of nothing even coming in on bids. So to the concern that you were asking about earlier, these aren't the regular routes, these are the athletic routes.
Okay.
But it has a significant impact on the athletic program.
Right, oh, no, of course. Are these the full-size buses or the smaller buses, like the activity?
No, the
These-
school-size
These are
buses.
regular-sized
These are
buses.
regular-sized buses.
54-passenger buses.
These are the athletic buses to away games?
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to have an impact.
Okay. Was that a motion? That was a motion.
That was a motions on the table, we need a vote.
Let's see.
All those in
Oh,
favor?
no, hold on, I gotta check something. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. What's other actions here?
That's for after closed
Okay.
session.
We do have a need to go into closed session for the reasons stated in the printed agenda.